Yeah,
Just
there's.
'cause that's my favorite part of the doing those is reading those comics and finding an unusual title for them. So I had a leaf stuck to my shoe is one of my favorites so far, just because of how strange it is.
Yeah. Hi, welcome to another Comics Grinder. This is Henry Chamberlain, and we're going to be chatting with Todd Webb, who is known for many projects. Right now, he's known mostly for The Poet, and we're going to be discussing Volume 2 of The Poet, which recently was released. Thanks for joining me, Todd.
Thank you for having me.
We're going to discuss many things, including this little gem, which I think is just utterly hilarious. It's so wonderful. Can you say a few words about Charlie in the Rye?
Sure. It stemmed from I have some friends that have a Peanuts podcast called Unpacking Peanuts. It's fantastic if you aren't aware of it. Um, and several months back, one of them made an offhand comment to the fact that Schultz and Salinger might have had some things in common because of the era that they were in, and they both were in the war and came back and made the works that they became famous for, but in very different directions. And and I think said something about, like, if you were gonna match up Peanuts characters with Salinger characters, who would you choose? And it was just like an offhand, side joke thing, and I was just like, oh, I bet you could put Catcher in the Rye quotes with Peanuts, and it would work like flawlessly. And like as soon as I had that thought, I opened up the copy that I had of Catcher in the Rye and threw some lines down, um, and was very pleasantly surprised by how well it worked. So then I just went through, read the book again, and I had a local comic show coming up this past February. So I like to have a new mini comic or something available for that show. So I went to work and made this little guy.
Let me see if I sometimes it works flawlessly, sometimes I screw it up, but let me see if I can recite this. I'm always saying, glad to have met you, to somebody I'm not at all glad to have met. If you want to stay alive, you have to say that stuff, though. People are always ruining things for you, which is perfect, because that's a little darker for Charlie, isn't
I don't know. I mean, the very first strip is the kids saying
it?
they hate him. So
Yeah, well, you're, I guess, more well versed on. I would think everybody feels like they know Charlie Brown, but yeah, just as I was asking that, I would kind of caught myself. Wait, maybe I'm totally off to say that because it's dark, it's sarcastic, and but with a veil of upbeat whimsy.
mhm. Yeah, all of the text in that mini comic is taken from The Catcher in the Rye, and all of the drawings are just redrawn from Peanuts comics. I just searched out strips that I felt matched to the quotes that I pulled, and then redrew them as needed.
And you can get this on your website, or no?
Yeah, it's in the shop page of toddbot.com. Right now, once they run out, they're gone. I think there'll
Okay.
be like 10 or 15 copies left. I only made 100 of them, so I didn't want to get in trouble. So once they're gone, they're gone.
Yeah, it's neat to having these items that you can only get at the con or for a limited time. Now, one thing I wanted to pursue was the idea of an all-time favorite, like something that you like so much that you cut it out and you put it on the refrigerator door.
Yeah, that's the goal.
And here's your well, one of the favorites that you would say in the notes that you feel that on page 10 it kind of describes the tone really well. And so you have the poet, and the poet says, "I love a good vacant lot, largely ignored but full of interest and quality." And the pigeon retorts, "Just like you."
Yeah,
And
that one's up there in my favorites for sure.
yeah, because you have a perfect setup, and then the classic retort or undercutting by the pigeon. And then the one that I was really interested in, or that was one I would put in my refrigerator door, is this description of a park bench. And I read it, and then I went about my life, and then I thought, where did I pick that up from? I'd forgotten I'd pick it up from you. I thought that's such a profound idea, like a bench is an art piece, and well, I started adding more things onto it. Like your memory starts playing tricks on you. But let me see if I can do justice to it. A park bench is a great work of optimism in a man-made world. How is a bench optimistic? The presence of a bench implies someone will be around to sit on it. Well, don't let me stop you from fulfilling your destiny. Yeah, because that is such a beautiful thought that the bench is there for someone to partake of. And then you have this gem, and you had Dennis Kitchen do the forward for Volume 1. You've got Patrick McDonald of Mutts to do Volume Two's forward, and his favorite is very simple, very stripped down. You just see the poet kind of shuffling a little bit on the bench, and at the very end, he says, "Sometimes I feel like a tomato on the windowsill." Makes me think like the William Carlos Williams poem. But so as I had suggested, oh, sometimes a pet peeve will take you on a really interesting uh, conversational journey. But
I love
so
seeing highlights in there. That's the
yeah,
first
yeah.
highlight copy I've ever seen.
This takes me to a pet peeve. I don't think. I mean, if you want numbers in your book, you better make sure you get them, because maybe your publisher will have other ideas, especially if the numbered pages and the notes are just essential to the book. Because is that something that now, as you get more deeper and deeper into the poem, you think about, what's going to make it into the notes? Or I ask that facetiously, but
I mean, with the notes, I don't write them until after I've put the book together, because then I sit through and I read each comic again, and think, I just make a note of whatever pops in my head. So I could force myself to come up with something for every strip, but I feel like that would be overkill. So
oh,
I just
sure.
try to do it if something specific, um, or that relates to other things that are in the book come up.
Yeah.
The hard part is cross referencing them with each other and making sure that my numbers are all correct.
Oh, yeah.
There's one of the test proofs I did, like there was a page where there was a note and I forgot to put the asterisk, and I was like, oh no, I gotta fix that.
Oh, yeah.
So those kinds of things. I don't have anybody doing that stuff for me. So.
Well, I think about your comic book, so Superman or whatever. No need for numbers necessarily.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe in the collected, but for something like this, where you have thoughts you might want to expand upon, you have to do the numbers, and I prefer numbers for a collected work, a graphic novel.
Mm-hmm.
But so number one, I just did a few. It looks like the whole thing's been highlighted, but no, just a few. I started with the snowman motif,
Mm-hmm.
to use a fancy art term, and Bill Waterston is the master of the snowman.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what you kick off with. What is the point of making a snowman? Isn't it cruel? The sun just is going to kill him. Well, he'll melt, but he won't die. You can't separate the light from the fire. But
Yeah, the weird thing about doing it, the way these books are structured is each one is a year, so it always starts on January 1st.
oh, there you go.
So the odds of it being a snowman strip are probably pretty good if I'm consistent with my timing of bringing the snowman in the thing.
Yeah.
Um, the next year or the one after that has, I always try to up the snowman appearance in crazy ways. And there's one year, I can't remember if it's three or four, where there's a snowman strip that directly references other cartoonists. So Bill Watterson is one of them. The pigeon makes there's a whole group of snowman friends that Pigeon is hanging out with, and they all have different cartoonist names.
Oh. Okay, so the second next one that I chose was page 10. If I had to pick a, oh, but we did that. That's your favorite. Let me see. Oh, number three. I like the fact that you might bring in a book to suggest for people like The Beauty of Everything. I can't pronounce the name of the author. Maybe I'll let you take it away.
It's I can't remember.
Soretsu Yanagi.
Yeah, I've got it over here. It's cool. It's just a book about craft and things. Yeah, this is the book for anybody who's interested. Um, it's neat. It gets into um, different characteristics of art and craft with things that we use all the time, like bowls and spoons and things.
Yeah.
But it's definitely an interesting book.
So this is the one connected to that. A park bench is a work of great beauty and faith in humanity, as convincing as anything you might find in a gallery. I find this bench particularly beautiful, but I'm more of a stool pigeon. So, do you feel do you see it coming where you go from one train of thought to the next for a week or so, or for a stretch of comic strips?
Yeah, it's always different. I think I touched on this last time, but I have a bunch of notebooks full of sticky notes with different scraps of sentences or ideas written on them. And sometimes when I sit down to write, I'll just pull out some of those and use them as like the kernel for a punchline or kicking off a panel, or put them next to each other to see if it gives me a weird juxtaposed idea.
Yeah.
And so that's how I start a lot of the time. I also have the notes app in my phone is full of bits and pieces for ideas of strips. But yeah, when the sequences happen, it's never planned. Sometimes there will be like a weird thematic unity to, like, I do usually write about a week or two at a time. And sometimes when I go through them afterwards, I'm like, oh wow, these 8 strips all seem kind of related to each other, and it's accidental.
Oh
um,
yeah.
when it becomes intentional is like sometimes I'll do a strip and it'll give me uh, it'll suggest a story, and then I just try to follow that joke until it reaches some conclusion over a period of days, and that's fun and scary when it happens because it's good because it's like, oh well, here's like 2 or 3 ideas in a row, but it's always scary trying to stick the landing and like
Yeah.
pivot off to something else.
Yeah. I don't want to include myself in it because you're the guy, but I dabble in it. But what I find is that I will come up with an idea, and then another one will land, and then I take it for granted. When it starts to take on a life of its own, I think, I don't know if people are going to respond, and then later on, I'll post it, and people do like it, and so I think, wait a minute, maybe I shouldn't take things for granted. And another thing that I've observed is I'll have an idea, and I'll say it's just not quite there yet, and then in the middle of the night or the next morning, it'll come to me. I'm sure that's
Mm-hmm.
happened to you, where the
Oh yeah.
idea will just easily come to you after you're not forcing it,
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
which I
that's
think is it's just miraculous. I love it when that happens. Like it's, it's almost like your deliveries finally arrived from DoorDash or something. So,
yeah.
I love this one. You make a case for not despairing, sticking to your guns. If you're self-published, you're an excellent company, and you listed Dickens and um, the Swan's Way. I didn't realize
Cruise.
that was self-published.
Yeah.
Leaves of Grass, the light to the lighthouse. So you're in
Mm.
very good company.
Yeah, I didn't, and I left comics out of there. I could have made a case and just pointed to Bone, or
Oh
not,
yeah.
things that people have heard of. But
Well, yeah. I mean, Jeff Smith. It kind of worked out for him, didn't it? He didn't have to worry about being courting publishers. I remember one interview where he talks about how bitter that was trying to court them, and he said, what am I doing?
hmm
I can do this. My
yeah,
tiny book of poetry is out now. It feels good to know that some new poems are making their way into the world. Neat, but who's reading them? The cold, hard, and caring world. And that's true. It's such a and it also can seem that way. It can play a game on you where maybe the world's not uncaring. You have to stick to your guns.
yeah. It's just it hasn't found the right people yet.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. So I have just a few more, and I think this was a good approach to go to the notes because I think a lot of folks might. I love notes, but maybe some people don't realize how much fun they can be
I
because it's
tried
such a
really hard to make these notes different than the average notes, to where they're almost another comic in themselves, as far as either giving some new information or just making fun of the strip that you just read.
yeah, yeah.
Like, tried to make it entertaining as opposed to academic.
Well, let's see. What did I come up with? Oh, this one. The poet lands on a title that he seems to think is special. I had a leaf stuck in my shoe, which is like a poem in itself. And then the fun part is, somebody could go look at the notes, find something that resonates with them, and then go look at the actual comic strip. So for this one, the simplest things give me ideas. Okay, so what are you writing about now? I had a leaf stuck in my shoe. Okay, so what are you writing about now? um,
Yeah, I used that sentence as a title for one of the little poet collections.
oh yeah, yeah.
Just
There's
because that's my favorite part of the doing those, is reading those comics and finding an unusual title for them. So I had a leaf stuck to my shoe is one of my favorites so far, just because of how strange it is.
yeah. So folks can get a little sampler, or they can just go ahead and get a full on volume.
hmm The big ones are definitely the best value.
Yeah,
Um, it seems like an expensive price tag at $40 for volume two and $30 for volume one, but the volume two is like 424 pages or something crazy.
yeah.
Um, and it has all the extra features, the notes and the index and the forwards and afterwards and all that. Um, so like getting the same amount of comics in the little books would cost you about $80. So
Yeah.
I love the little ones, but the big ones are when people ask, I'm like, I'm not upselling you. I'm actually downselling you. The big ones are they're the best value, and they're bigger. They're easier to read.
So this one, we'll take a look at the comic strip, and then I'll describe the notes a little bit. I hate when it rains. There's nothing to do but wait for it to stop. I like the sound of rain. I prefer the sound of sunshine. And this one, you talk about the psychology of being at a comics convention. I'm not sure I catch the connection. Maybe because of the contradictory nature of what's going on, or
It's just that I have a specific memory related to being at a show and this comic strip, um, which is in the note. Like I was at a comic convention, and part of being at a comic convention is just sitting at your table and waiting for people to come over. I usually stand. Pro tip: if you're at a comic show and you can handle it, stand because more people will talk to you. Um,
yeah,
but Yeah, I was at a show and a group of friends came over and were looking through all the books and stuff. And one gentleman opened up to that strip and read it and busted out laughing at the I prefer the sound of sunshine. And he showed it to his friends and they laughed. And he turned to me and he said, I prefer the sound of sunshine. That is the funniest thing I have ever read in my life. That's really great. And then he shut the book and just walked away. Didn't find anything, and his friends didn't find anything, and that perfectly encapsulates a comic book experience for those who have never done a comic book convention.
Oh God, it
With a
most
lot
certainly
of,
does. I my theory is it's more than a theory. It's let's just say it's a flat out observation is that people don't know what to do with themselves sometimes, especially when you're just inches away from the creator. Like,
mm-hmm,
what do you do? Because you're not sure you're going to buy anything. You might only have a few dollars on you, but at the
mm-hmm.
same time, you're curious, you're intrigued. So at least a creator can do something about it. I think the only thing you can do is be prepared with prepared stock comments like, how's the convention going? Have you seen any interesting things during the
Well,
convention?
my workaround for conventions is I have this thing I've been doing for I don't know many years, um, where I draw people in crayon for $1. I'll draw their portrait in about a minute. And I have a sign that says, I'll draw your portrait in crayon for $1 and it will be awesome. And that gets people to come over, without me having to pitch them to come over. And then I have a note next to that sign that says, kindly consider purchasing a comic book. And people respond to having signs that tell them
Yeah,
what to do. And so like they come over and they're like, well, I've got $1. This is probably going to be terrible here. And then they're always pleasantly surprised by the drawing, and sometimes force their friends all to get one, which is nice. So I make, $5 instead of $1.
yeah,
Um, and then some small percentage of the time they'll pick up a comic book too, which is the reason I'm there.
yeah.
but but it's nice. It gives me an excuse to talk to people, without having to try to convince them to buy anything. And I can just ask them about themselves while I do the drawing.
Oh,
It's,
yeah.
it's good practice.
Yeah. It's a good life skill to have. So another observation, this is like a pet peeve, is that some of the best people at selling aren't necessarily selling you the best work. They're selling you,
It's
there's
true.
some stuff that, don't you hate that? They're
I
selling you,
do.
I can tell you what they're selling without actually naming any names. They're selling you stuff. that is like a soap opera story with a monster and a sibling who's trying to redeem his brother or sister, and then the salesperson is just so caught up in the story that the observer, the innocent bystander, gets caught up in it too. Yeah, yeah, that sounds awesome. That sounds awesome. And then they buy it, and
Right.
then I can't explain it. Some of them come back for more, and I can tell it's not great stuff, but I think they get caught up in the story and they get caught up in the excitement of the moment.
Well, I think a lot of the general public has been conditioned to expect um, like those fantasy elements and sci-fi elements and superhero things to just be what a story is now. There's so much of it constantly out there, so it's fun. Like my kind of anti-pitch for the poet is, oh, it's about an old guy who writes poems and talks to a bird. Yeah, it's like none of those things. But yeah, it's I have nothing but respect for anybody who can sell anything of theirs to somebody who's never heard of it before. Like that's a true skill. It's tough to do. And it's my favorite thing about taking these books to comic book shows is actually when somebody who has no idea what it is finds it and actually takes it home with them. Like um, that proves to me that it works.
Yeah.
So that I love seeing that reaction. But it's just as much fun watching people be like, "This is the greatest thing ever," and then leave. Like there is humor in that.
Yeah. Oh, and you were mentioning unpacking peanuts.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, I don't believe I've tuned into it too much. I think I've tried it a little bit. I need to get deeper into it. The host, Jim Gownley,
Mm-hmm.
and in this note, he's talking about how Pigeon shares a lot of the sensibility of Lucy, and so here's supposed to be a really good example of that. I'm having a bad day. I don't even talk. Don't even talk to me. Well, aren't you going to ask why I'm so upset? Yeah, that does sound like Lucy. There's a Lucy thing going on there.
Yeah, yeah. I say that's big Lucy energy. That's what Pigeon has sometimes.
Okay, and moving right along, this is a really good one. This could be like on a T-shirt or something. Don't worry. It's the don't worry about Plan A. Moving on to Plan B. Stick to Plan A strategy. Do you have a Plan B if poetry doesn't work out for you? No, I just have a Plan A. The A stands for again. A is try again. Oh, I'm sure there's plenty of dishwasher jobs out there if you need money. Now,
I like.
speaking about merchandise, is that something that you're still is that a nut that you're still trying to crack, or I don't know what I'm talking about. How are you doing some merchandising stuff?
Oh yeah, actually, so I just before Volume 2 came out, I went and completely redesigned my website. So toddbot.com is all fancy now. Um, Part of that is building up a little merch shop for stuff. So I actually, it's funny you ask, but I have like the past week and a half, I've been every night spending an hour or two trying to design t-shirts and mugs and tote bags and stuff like that that I can make available for as cheap as I'm allowed to. But yeah, that's forthcoming probably in the next week or two. I'm just waiting for. I've ordered samples of some things to see that the quality is okay. You know,
Hmm.
uh, there are a couple of fancier big prints too. I got one of the prints back. This is an 8x10 of a Sunday format strip, which is
Oh
actually
wow,
the inside covers of Volume 2, but colorized.
nice.
So like every one of the big books, I do a Sunday comic style thing and put it in as the spread on the inside covers. But I'm going to make prints of those. And there's a giant, the one that I drew for volume 1 is like a 24 by 32 inch, like poster size giant Sunday comic.
Oh, wow.
And I had made one print of it before, um, when that book came out, and I only had one, and I framed it up and took it to a show and sold it at the show.
Oh, well, that's nice.
And I had people were like, "Do you have any of your little prints?" And I said, "No, I just have this one giant one." And so that one will be available too, for anybody who has wall space they want to fill up with a giant comic strip.
Uh-huh.
Um, but yeah, the t-shirts and sweaters and all that stuff. I've been trying really hard to come up with things that look nice and I would want to buy.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah,
nothing beats being at a convention to get feedback and seeing what people are attracted to, what they want to buy. Um, I think there's always room for it can be hit or miss, but stickers you might want to do just a small amount because that's a
yeah.
relatively small investment to set up some stickers.
I'm just using an on-demand shop to make it so that I don't actually have to stock all the stuff because I have nowhere to store things anymore.
Yeah,
Um, but then if I have a show, I can buy a couple of each one. But yeah, they do stickers and stuff. I want to make blank notebooks too, since the main character is a poet. So it's
oh
like
wow,
write you know, your own thoughts down in a poet notebook.
yes,
That will be coming. The one I'm trying to do is I want to do some kind of a card game, and this is something that I wouldn't be doing on demand. But I talk about a game in the notes of this book, that my friends and I play when we go for walks called Pinecone, and I think that I'm going to try to make a Pinecone, some version of Pinecone that can be played with poet themed cards, like a little card game. But um, if you want to know that the rules of Pinecone, in real life don't require cards. You just need to take a walk on a sidewalk where there's lots of pine cones laying around, and
Fair-
it's basically a contest to see who can kick their pine cones consistently the farthest and straightest.
I see.
But I'm like, I think that would I could make a game called Pinecone with the poet
Sure.
pigeon and do something with it. So that's cooking around right now.
No, that's really exciting. I love the idea of a journal
Yeah.
and a game, both of those. Now, for some reason, let's see, 206. I'm just going to recite this cold. I don't remember what I was thinking here, but whatever you do in life, you have to find what feels right for you and put yourself on the path to find home. Where are we? So I think it's just, what was I? Oh, let me see here. Yeah, I did have a little note for this one. I think of this as like Life 101 because no matter how noble, no matter how well intentioned, there's always going to be someone or something that's going to undercut you. You just have to grin and bear it and move onward.
Yeah.
Now I know this is a silly question, but the pigeon, what's his motivation is it always well intentioned or how would you describe the pigeon's point of view of things?
Um, that is a good question. I don't know that both characters kind of, they encompass all of my weird thoughts and moods at different times. The pigeon usually, I'm sure, is well intentioned, um, but is more concerned with themselves probably than the poet, who is looking outwardly, and the pigeon is usually looking inward, but not in a thoughtful inward way.
Mm-hmm.
Um, like the pigeons' favorite things are like billboards and crime novels. You know,
Mm-hmm.
the poet likes looking at light on the grass. So those things find themselves at odds sometimes. And then when they line up or switch, it's good joke material.
Yeah, that's interesting. That can be like a, oh, come on, work with me. There. Have no camera person. I'm a one man person here, so it can make you dizzy sometimes. No, I was going to say this like a life lesson because sometimes people that you come across, they seem like, is this malicious or and no, maybe it's just their worldview.
Right. Well, in that one that we just read, like the joke is him saying, follow your path and stuff, and then Pigeon is like, where are we, like physically? And there's like a storyline about them being lost, or Pigeon thinks they're lost in the woods, and of course, Poet knows exactly where they are. But so yeah, that kind of playing on the words themselves, I really enjoy.
So, am I missing anything else that you might want to add?
Oh gosh, I don't know. um, Mainly, I just want to make the world at large, especially the comics world, aware that the book exists. As I don't have a publicist or a PR person or publisher or any of that stuff, so it's like I'm very dependent on word of mouth, and I know it's a pricier price tag for volume two than lots of other black and white books out there, but I can only say that I think it's justified um,
Yeah,
for the amount of
it's a
stuff.
perfect little gift, and
And
it's a nice size.
I love the size. I like
Yeah.
and the fact going forward, like I thought volume one was nice and chunky, but there's another hundred something pages in volume two because volume one, like the strip started in like April or May of the first
This
year.
is volume one.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you can.
Yeah, yeah, it's bigger because from this point on, they'll all be full years, like January to December. So they'll all be closer to volume two size from here on, which is neat to think about.
Do you have some conventions coming up?
I do actually. If you'd asked me 2 weeks ago, I would have said nope, I got nothing. But I've got next month in June. I've got Heroes Con in
Oh,
North
wow.
for the first time, um, and I should be in the Indy Island area there. And then right after that is our own Tidewater Comic Con here in Virginia Beach. And then in the fall, I just found out I got in the Small Press Expo again, so I'll be returning to SPX.
Nice.
I really look forward to because that's a great show that goes way, way, way back for me.
Very nice. Yeah, I look forward to being part of that in the future. I'm not trying out this year at all. I feel like well, there's too much going on in my life to be planning conventions this year. So,
Well, if you're moving in October, like that's convention season, so that's you know,
yeah, yeah.
yeah,
So, yeah,
that's
these months leading up to it, I have to wrap my mind around it and packing and all of this stuff. So it's a good time to just prioritize what can I really get done.
yeah,
And so I'm doing a few more of these interviews. I love doing them. It takes a lot of planning and preparing and psyching yourself up for it, man. Because even leading minutes leading up to it, I'm like, I treat it like I'm like there's a red light going on. You're about to be on the air, and
uh,
I play a game, a real mind game on myself, and I'm coming up with questions up to the last minute. So Anyway, it's fun. I enjoy doing it, but I'm also working on my a little bit of my comic strip. I'm not. I can't really. I can't say what's going to happen with that, but my graphic novel is the one that I'm spending more and more and more time on.
Hmm.
There's some bits and pieces in the background, but anyway,
That's neat.
I want to thank you. Unless there's something else you wanted to say, I want to thank you for your time, and we should do this again. We'll just keep it as an open invitation because there's a
Sure.
endless amount of things we can chat about. We can like do a crazy cat theme. We can do peanuts. Anything's possible.
Sure. Yeah, I'll talk comics anytime. I can say I'll give you the first scoop. One of my older books is called The Goldfish and Bob. It's going to be 25 next year. So now that volume two's done, before I start putting volume three together, I'm working on a 25th anniversary Goldfish and Bob book. So that will be out next year. So that's a new thing that nobody's really asking for, but I'm going to put in the world anyway.
All right.
So yeah, that's the next release that I know of.
Okay. Well, thanks so much, and we will do this again.
Awesome, thanks, Henry.